Everybody, welcome back to the show. Very excited to share this next guest with you today, who's going to provide you with so much content and knowledge as it relates to your career. And perhaps you're searching for a job, perhaps you're looking for a transition, something new. She is going to give you so much insight today, and me too. I told her already I'm looking to learn myself. So Giselle Moratin is with us today. She is the founder of Guider's Way Career Coaching. Giselle helps mid career professionals navigate the modern job market with confidence, clarity, and a personalized game plan. And she will work with you until you land the job. I love that she says that. If you've looked on her LinkedIn profile, she says, I'm not just here to give you resume tips, interview tips, but to actually stay with you on this journey and guide you until you land that next opportunity. So, Giselle, welcome to the podcast. So great to have you.
Thank you, Jeremy. I'm excited to be here and to share.
I'm excited to hear from you, and I know the audience will really benefit from this discussion. And again, the tips and the insights you're going to give. I thought we would start just a little bit about your journey, your background. I know you've spent so much time helping people as it relates to their careers and starting in higher education. And how did you start? And then how did you get to where you are today running your own coaching practice?
Yeah. So I actually went to school for hotel administration. I loved traveling when I was a kid. I'm like, I think I want to go into hospitality. And so went to Cornell for hotel administration and ended up in Orlando, opening up the first three hotels that Universal opened up. And it was amazing. And I loved every minute of it. But at a few years after, I started volunteering for a ministry that helps people that are either underemployed or unemployed, helping them with their resume, letting them know who they are in Christ, and sharing how to interview, all the things. So it was simultaneously, kind of building them up and then sharing all these practical tips on how to do a job search. And I actually, even while I was in college, I didn't think about this till later. I worked in the alumni affairs office, and I remember working with students that were looking for a job. And I don't know, resumes really came easy to me. That was just something, the way that I'm kind of, my brain is wired. And so I really enjoyed mentoring. I just volunteered in this organization and I mentored students that were going through their job search. And fast forward a few more years, my boss wants to promote me to do group and convention sales for the hotels. And I say to her, I really enjoy this, but I think I want to move towards more of an HR type role because I enjoy so much helping, people and job seekers. And so I quickly found an opportunity through networking to become a career advisor full time at DeVry University. I did that for many years, ended up getting my master's there, and then started teaching a class that I pretty much taught for about 20 years between DeVry and Valencia, which is our local college here. Just taught this course on how to build a resume, how to interview, how to get completely ready. I mean, at this one school, it was an 8-week class that every single student had to take, how to build a portfolio, how to show, not just tell, what you have done. And so it was just a wonderful opportunity to work with students from all kinds of backgrounds and changing careers on how to find their next career, their next job, their next, season of life. And so after teaching for about 20 years, simultaneously, our kids went to school full time. We were homeschooling part time for many of those years. And so I had a little bit more time to myself. And my husband, who's more of an entrepreneur at heart, he was like, you should start doing this, as your business. Like you should start creating like a coaching business. And so about 2 years ago, I pretty much said, okay, I think I'm going to start, helping people individually. And it has been just such a sweet journey to help people specifically in this job market that's just been a little bit more difficult than it has been for a few years to be able to help share just tools and tips and just systems that work in this more difficult job market.
Yeah. That's an amazing journey. We're going to talk about that job market in a minute, but I had to go back to the beginning there. So Cornell, first of all, wow, Giselle. Okay. You just kind of threw that in there. That's amazing. That's an amazing institution, I'm sure. What was that experience like at Cornell?
It was amazing. I grew up in Miami, and a lot of people would tell me, like, why didn't you just go to FIU? Like, Florida National University has a wonderful hospitality school. And I
Yeah.
said, because the person that started that school went to Cornell. And if I can get in there, why not do it?
Right.
And so I was actually so fortunate to be able to do that. And it was an amazing experience. I mean, I was born in Cuba. My parents, did everything to be able to, kind of create a better future by leaving, their country, their comfort, all that, and make a better future for my sister and I. And so honestly, we just took every opportunity we could to make
Right.
it happen. And so it was amazing. I'll tell you the funny story is that it snows like I don't know most of the year. I think through like April and May. But I always knew I was going to come back to Florida. Like I wanted to be close to home. I didn't want to go back to Miami. Miami's a little too much, but but Orlando was just absolutely perfect. And so, yeah, it was an amazing experience. I got to study abroad my junior year in Spain. So it was just,
Hmm.
I mean, I look back and I'm so grateful that I took that leap and I did something that was, yeah, definitely challenging and stretched me a lot. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't change it for a minute. Even today, I'm connected to the Hotelie Association, the local, there's a lot of hoteliers in Orlando. And so it's just
Right.
a great, group of people to be connected with and to share that.
That's amazing. No, that's quite an accomplishment. I'm curious about that transition where you said you had this opportunity in the hospitality, which sounds like a pretty good opportunity, and you said, "No, I want to go this direction." Was that difficult? Because it sounds like you probably turned down pretty good opportunity to grow professionally in that industry.
Yeah, and it's so funny. I share this story with job seekers that sometimes you have to look at an entire package when you accept a job offer. And I did take a serious pay cut because I was in sales. I was in group and convention sales. I was selling small groups, but we're talking for the Portofino, I mean, these really high-end hotels. And the commissions were pretty good. So when I took a job as a career advisor, I mean, I remember the HR gentleman calling me and he's like, "Hey, I see what you wrote as your salary requirement. And we really can't, like, this is what our range is." And so I just said to him, I'm like, "Hey, I know that one of the benefits is that you can get a master's degree." And so I weighed the package of like not only it wasn't just money, it's like I was able to get my master's while I was there and only had to pay for the books. So it was definitely a step down in how much money I was making. But if I look back, it was such a like I loved that journey and being able to really do something that I was really passionate about. Sometimes you don't take a job because of just the money, but it's just what do you
Right.
really enjoy doing and know that I was giving back, and something that I felt like there was a lot of experience that I was able to gain, not only through that volunteer experience, even working in the alumni affairs office at the college. So yeah, it was a great opportunity to do something that I was really passionate about, and I've been able to do that for a very long time now.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great perspective on don't just look at the job, the pay, the promotion. It is does it fit maybe your passion, your long term trajectory, and looking at like you said the whole package too. So
Yeah.
obviously it's worked out and led you to where you are now.
Absolutely. And that same year I did that transition was a year that my husband and I got married. So just to add to the mix,
Mm.
I obviously wanted something that was a little more flexible because
Mm.
working in hospitality, like the hours a little bit long. So, I mean, I'm happy that I didn't have that job when I had children because that would have, made it a
Yeah,
little harder. But I've always joked around the perks of working in hospitality are wonderful. So sometimes I think maybe when we retire, quote unquote, I'll go back and get a job at a hotel just because the perks are so amazing.
yeah, for sure. No doubt about that. Well, let's talk a little about this job market. We spoke the other day and I asked you about the job market. Kind of surprised me what you said. Can you tell us your perspective on the current job market?
Yeah, I have been helping job seekers within the last couple of years. I mean, really within 20 years, but But in a school level, it's different because they're going back, they're getting a certificate or a degree, and finding their next position. Where right now I'm working with mid-career professionals that have had a career at least, 10 years that they've been working. And many of them, and this is, I feel like the ones that I work the best with are the ones that haven't had to look for a job in a while. So when they kind of find themselves in this new job market, it's like, what is happening? It is so hard because it's not just about applying online. If you're not connecting with humans, your resume may never be seen by a person. It's going through these application tracking systems. If it doesn't have the right keywords, if it's not, filling in all the things that they want to make sure they see that you have, a human is not going to see it. And so we also have a large amount of people that have been laid off from organizations happening within this last year. You have people that since COVID were working remote and now are being asked to go back to work full time and or go back to work in person, I should say. And they're just not able to do that because maybe of their family dynamics, or maybe they've moved and they don't want to go back to wherever the corporate office is. So I have had just so many conversations that of people that are finding just this is a totally different market from just even 2, 3 years ago. And so, and as I talk through with other career coaches that are also helping job seekers, it's a kind of common, among all the different industries. Technology, we're seeing, Microsoft had some, layoffs. And so there's just so many different industries that are being affected. It's not just like one that I could say, this is the one area that's being affected. It's like thousands and thousands of people are being affected all over the US.
Yeah, that I knew there'd been some layoffs. I watch the news, pay attention to the headlines, but I didn't realize how tough it was. And it just sounds like there's there's a lot of noise out there, and it's almost like how do you get seen in that noise? Is that accurate? Like it's like how do I get people to look at me and what I can offer is probably one of the big challenges a job seeker's facing right now. Is that right?
Absolutely. It's, not only the situations I mentioned, but also even grads that are coming out of school, and then companies are holding off on hiring new individuals because they're just trying to wait and see what the economy does over the next few months. And so that adds to the amount of job seekers, people that are maybe highly skilled. Some people have decided, well, I'll go back to school, and then are not able to, find this next job. And then they're saying, well, what if I'm overqualified? So anyway, there's a lot of scenarios that are kind of playing into the job market today. And like you're saying, if you are not really intentional on how you are found, right? How can somebody find you? How are you able to stand out when, if it's just supposedly submitting an application, which I'm telling everyone, please don't just submit applications, because I have literally had so many conversations with people where they have submitted 400, 600 applications in the last year and only had like two people call them back. I mean, it's so crazy to even think about it, that you want to make sure, what else can I be doing that's going
Yeah.
to be a better use of my time?
Right. Yeah, and I could totally relate to that when you and I were talking beforehand. I remember back in what I thought was a really bad market, which was 2020, specifically that summer, when there were obviously a ton of layoffs. There was just kind of this, obviously, a lot of uncertainty. I remember because I found myself in a situation then where I was looking for a new opportunity, and it was probably the worst possible time. And I think I was doing a lot of what you just said. I was tracking all these jobs I was applying for, but if I'm being honest, I was probably just applying to a lot of jobs.
Hmm.
And to your point, the results were not good. And I can remember there was one where I got through the process that I didn't know anyone there had any connections. That may have just been luck. But then there was another where I got pretty far in a competitive process. And that I can attribute to the fact that I literally had at least four people who worked at that organization where I did reach out intentionally, and I said, "Hey, I'm applying for this. Anything you can do to offer a recommendation, suggestions, connections," and they all did. They all actually reached out on my behalf, and I know for a fact I wouldn't have gotten anywhere in that process without that. So I think that is a testament to what you're saying is you can't just sit back and apply.
Mm.
You've got to do more. You've got to be intentional. You've got to be proactive. You've got to be persistent.
Yes,
And we'll
yes,
get into some of those, but I just offer that as like a very personal story to validate what you're saying. Is just it doesn't work if you just apply. You just get
yes.
lost. It felt like a black hole. Like it was like, where's all my stuff going? I think it's in this. It's out there somewhere, but nobody's
Yeah.
looking at it. I'm sure you
That's a
get that a
perfect way to
lot, right?
describe it. Yes,
You probably
that's a
get that a
perfect
lot.
way to describe it. I mean, people feel like they're, and some of these applications will take 45 minutes to
Yes.
complete because they're asking you to not only submit the resume, but then go ahead and enter all the information you have on your resume into this application. I mean, and all
Can
of
you
these
speak to
steps.
that? Like, is there a reason? Because you're right. And man, does that not burn me up?
Yes,
Why do
yes.
they need the application and the resume? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the last conversation I had with my client about this, I said to him, listen, I want you to just create your own scorecard when it comes to the companies and the positions you're applying for. I want you to
Huh.
really kind of evaluate every job that you're applying for on a scale of 1 to 5. 5 being like, I absolutely want this job. I love the organization. I want to work here. 1 being like, not even sure, if I really want to work there or not. And then look at what the application process, how long it takes. If it's more than 30 minutes, I want you to look at that scorecard. Is it a 1 or 2? Maybe you don't. Maybe you just do the easy apply, which I tell people don't do the easy apply because literally the fact that it's an easy apply, everybody does it and they get hundreds and hundreds and thousands of, resumes that don't get looked at. But if it's gonna take that long, then it hopefully is a job that you really care, about enough and that you're willing to take the time to do that process. Because unfortunately, I know some things I feel like have gotten a little more complicated with technology, where they're making job seekers spend quite a bit more time applying and filling in, boxes.
They really are. And it is amazing. And maybe that's a way to screen people out, I guess. Hey, if you're really serious, you're going to do this.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I even say don't get discouraged when you see on LinkedIn or if the application that you have says how many applicants have already turned in an application, don't get discouraged. Sometimes the people that are applying do not have what they're even asking for. And so if it's something you really, really want, apply. But more importantly, reach out to at least 5 people in that organization,
Mm.
and not just the HR manager and the hiring managers and the recruiters. They get they get everyone reaching out to them. Reach out to somebody that's at the level that you're trying to get in at, like someone that would have your job title or just someone in the organization, and have conversations with these people. I mean, the most important thing is like connect with them first if you can on LinkedIn, or if they share their email, try to send them an email because emails are still, answered a lot more than LinkedIn. I feel like sometimes when you're job searching, you're on LinkedIn every day, but most people are not. And so do know that.
Right.
So if you have an email, send them an email. Say, hey, I would love to learn about what you do. I'd love to learn about your just journey in your
Mhm.
career, what you have done. Mention the type of industry you're trying to get into, but do not say, can you help me get a job? Can you refer my resume? Don't say that. That's not the way to start the conversation. The way to start is I just want to learn from you. I want to hear your story. People will share their story. They're going to share their journey. They're going to share their wisdom. If you are genuinely interested in doing research, and that's what I always say, like tell them you're doing research because you're interested in learning about this industry, this field, this career, maybe the organization. Don't tell them, can you please help me get a job? Because most people don't have a job that they can refer you to. But if you are learning from them, if you're asking questions, if you're
Mhm.
hearing their story, That's a totally different way to engage, and people are more open to doing that.
That's great. Great advice. That's what I think we're hoping to bring out today is these tactics that maybe people are not they're not thinking about and obviously are not doing. Um, and just taking the time to connect with people at the organization that you want to work for potentially,
Hmm.
but not to ask for them to recommend you because they don't know you, which would be
Exactly.
weird. But but I'm sure people do that. Hey, can you recommend me for this? And I've been on the receiving end of that. To your point, and
Hmm.
it's somebody maybe that I am connected to on LinkedIn. And let's just be honest, I'm connected to a lot of people on LinkedIn, and I don't know them very right. I've
Right.
accepted a connection, and we do that, right? And then they reach out randomly, and hey, I'm applying for this job at your company. Is there anything you can do, or can you recommend? And it's kind of awkward. You don't just want to say no,
Right.
but it's like, well, I barely know you. I'm not
Exactly.
going to stake my reputation on you. I mean, that's fair, right?
Absolutely. And here, okay, here's an example of how you can start building rapport with somebody you don't know at all.
Hmm.
So imagine if someone says to you, Jeremy, I really want to learn about what you're doing, about your career, about even what you've done throughout, your career. Can you share a podcast, a TED Talk, a book that you recommend that I should research, right? And you're like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like you send them something, it didn't take you too much time. That person a week later messaged you back and said, I listened to that podcast or that TED Talk or I read that book, and here's some nuggets I got out of it. Like all of a sudden, this went from a person that you wouldn't recommend because you don't know them to like, huh, this person followed through on advice I gave them. They got back to me. They were super professional, and so if that person now says, would you mind scheduling a 20-minute online coffee chat, right? So that's what I back in the day we used to call them informational interviews. That's kind of like an old term nowadays, but just an online coffee chat just means this right here. We are just talking over Zoom, and I just want to ask you questions about your career, about your trajectory, about what you have done. All of a sudden, totally different perspective, right? Like you didn't know this person, you definitely weren't going to recommend them because you're like, I barely know him. To now, like, yes, I'll have a conversation with you and I'll share about my career, trajectory. And so I feel like there are ways to approach someone in an organization or in the field that you're trying to get into that are more welcoming for the recipient that doesn't know you at all. And ways that they make, first of all, accept your connection request on LinkedIn, then maybe have this conversation later on. And, if you show them that there's something, and it could even be the person, and I actually recommend this, which is a little bit harder, but you got to just start slowly, right? Is if you find something really good on LinkedIn, go ahead and repost that, right? So then you become this person that is sharing great tips that you are learning. And it could be tips on job searching, it could be great tips on the industry that you're trying to learn and get into. But then you may even feel as daring as to actually post something yourself. And that when you reach out to somebody that doesn't know you well, that person is going to go through this person's LinkedIn profile and read and be like, wow, this person has a great resource for information. I love, maybe they're younger, but they're sharing how, whether it's AI, new technology, new things that are coming into the industry, how it's affecting our job or this type of work or industry or even organization. So you can become like a resource for other people that are in the field. And that's impressive, right? So
Mm.
that's not something that you actually proactively did, but you're just working on the sidelines as you're growing and trying to get into this new industry.
Yeah. So it's about being proactive, being intentional, and building up this presence, I guess, on LinkedIn. Again, not just applying, not just sending things out and sitting back, but really taking control maybe of what you can control. And I think to your point, there's probably a lot of people that aren't doing that. So it's a way to differentiate yourself, right?
100%. Absolutely. And it's funny, a lot of people will call it that it's really your online brand, right?
Hmm.
Because even
Hmm.
though you're not a marketer, you are marketing
Yeah.
yourself, right? And so, one thing that I will say as you are building, whether you want to or not, you are building your online brand, is to be very careful with what you're posting. Because I
Mm.
did share, like, if you're learning resources, if you're like finding out tips, like I love sharing a tip that I learned recently about how if you want to find the jobs that are posted on LinkedIn that are within an hour, because normally you can only hit a little button that says find what jobs that are being posted within 24 hours. But I found out on a Reddit post that you can actually change the URL to make it, let me see the jobs that were posted within the last hour. And believe it or not, because of the crazy job market we're in today, it does make a difference if you're within the first 24 to 48 hours to apply to a job. So finding out sooner than later is definitely helpful. But anyway, I say all that because sometimes, you could be this great resource for tips, even for other job seekers, like what you're learning and you're sharing that. But you got to be careful that you are not maybe in a very frustrated stage where you've applied to all these jobs. Maybe you are trying to do all the right things. You're reaching out and you're not hearing back. And then you decide one day to share how frustrated you are in this job market. And I just, with everything in me, I'm like, please don't. Find your people, find friends, family members that you can share that, you can vent, you can have this little text group, but do not post on any social media. I don't care if it's TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Don't post how frustrated you are or how terrible the job market is or how terrible the recruiters are because guess what? They are the ones that are going to give you an opportunity. So, like complaining about the whole process, or even them, or even an old boss or an old job,
Mm.
unfortunately, what they're going to see is this is what you're going to say about me or about this new company or about these new, hiring managers and recruiters that are trying to hire you. So anyway, I just caution every
Mm.
job seeker, be a great, positive resource for what you post and what you share. Try to leave the venting and even the therapy session to friends and family and others that you can trust, but don't post it on any social media site. Because trust me, companies they spend quite a bit of money to hire somebody, and they're
Yeah.
gonna dig it up. They rather pay someone to find out, make sure when you're doing a background check, has this person posted anything negative on social media? Because it costs them less money to do that research ahead of time than having to let go of somebody and then restart
Mm.
the whole hiring process.
Yes. Great advice. It's so easy to hop on social and type some things and, like you say, get your feelings out and type something that you wish you hadn't, because, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's we want people to join in with you make us feel better. I don't know. I'm sure there's a
And they will.
psychological element to it that we're looking for, but your point is spot on that it's not helpful to you.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So great tips. Listen, I think LinkedIn, maybe we can spend a little more time there because you clearly know so much. I'm looking at your posts. And I would encourage everybody to follow you on LinkedIn, and these posts you're sharing are spot on. I'm curious though, how did you learn more at this in-depth level of LinkedIn? You've just spent a lot of time there. Did you just kind of trial and error? Where have you spent time to get kind of some of these behind the scenes tools? Like the thing I read, the one like you just said about the hour, and I was like, where did she find this?
Yes, I honestly I work with and follow a lot of other career
Okay.
coaches. And so anytime that I learn about a tip that I'm like, oh, this can be so incredibly helpful to so many people today, I'm like, I have to share this. Another one I just found out that was super, super helpful is normally you would on LinkedIn type a job that you're looking for, a job title, let's say project manager. And then you click on jobs and it would list here all the jobs that are being posted. But there's a way to just click project manager and then click posts. And what happens is that recruiters, when they're having, whether it's a hard time or they really need someone right away, they will actually create a post sharing the job that they're looking to fill. And so if people see the post, you can engage with it and immediately apply for that job. It just helps you find posts that are
Mm.
happening right now versus maybe a job that was posted days ago or weeks ago. Because also, if someone is posting about this job, they're literally like active right now. It's not like the company posted it, then LinkedIn posted a few days later. You know what I mean? It takes a few days
Yeah.
sometimes. So that's a really good one. And I know how important. I've honestly heard it say, and I don't know, I believe this in different ways. I've heard it say that LinkedIn is going to be more important, or may even today be more important than your resume. And the
Mm.
reason that people say that is that your resume is something that you have to submit when you apply for a job. LinkedIn, your LinkedIn profile is active out there all the time, and someone can find you and reach out to you. People don't find your resume and reach out to you unless you send the resume to them. So it is a tool that you can actually use, like we said earlier, when you're creating this brand where you can have someone identify. I mean, I've also heard it say that LinkedIn is almost like a candidate database for a lot of recruiters today, where they are literally searching for keywords and skills, and if your profile has the keywords and the skills of the job that they're trying to fill, they're going to reach out to you and say, hey, can we schedule an interview? So that
Mm.
doesn't happen, with a resume. So I feel like it is so important to not just, which was what I see a lot of people do, copy and paste their resume into LinkedIn and that's all they have. And I'm like, your resume is a quick little trailer, right? Like a little snapshot of what you're trying to show an organization and how you match this specific job. LinkedIn can be so much more. LinkedIn can have samples of your work. It can have, like I said, you being a resource because you're sharing, you're reposting things that you're learning. It could have a lot more of your experience, right? Because normally on our resume, we're only sharing maybe 10, 15 years, or maybe just the experience that's most relevant to the specific job. But on LinkedIn, you can share so much more. You can go back as many years as you want. You can share volunteer opportunities. Sometimes we run out of space on that resume. I always say never
Yeah.
more than 2 pages, but you can share volunteer opportunities at organizations that really care about having people that are well
Mhm.
balanced and that are giving back. Like they're going to see that and they're like, oh, if I've got a candidate that has all the skills and the, qualifications, but this one has all the skills, qualifications, and gives back to their community, like they may, weigh this one more than the other. So having the opportunity to share so much more on LinkedIn really helps you stand out.
For sure. It's an amazing tool and it's grown so much over the years, so many capabilities now. Is there anything specific that you would recommend people start doing now to make that profile better? Like in any just quick tips, you say, hey, these are a few things you could really focus in on to start making your profile stand out a little bit more.
Absolutely. So the first one is the banner. The
Okay.
banner, if you're looking at your profile on a computer, even on a phone or
Yeah.
mobile device, the banner takes up like a third of the screen. And people will have this like green background the little green waves that LinkedIn comes with. And it's like, oh, that's such a missed opportunity because you can have an image, which by the way, on Canva for free. You can create the most beautiful banners, and the banner can not only represent an image that represents you, remember, we're talking about your brand, or that represents the type of work that you are showing that you can do, right? So maybe that industry, that career, and maybe share a few words that over this banner, a few words that highlight your skills, your qualifications, maybe an accomplishment that you have, something that stands out, like how many years of experience you have in this industry, or how much of this type of skill or that you have. So adding just a few words, that banner alone makes your whole profile look different, and it's already like focusing and making it very specific towards that position that you're looking for. I do tell people that are kind of on the fence on like, okay, I really want to do this or maybe that. And if you're a believer, just pray. Just say like, Lord, just give me direction on what my next role should be because it really does make a difference when your entire profile is very targeted and focused to
Mhm.
one type of job. Um, if you're trying to be all things to all people, right? If you have like, I can do these three things and I have great experience and I have all the things, you're competing with people that have very targeted profiles, that every bullet point, everything they share is how they can do this one job. So try as much as possible to make your profile focused and targeted. And when I say that, the very next thing I always mention is your headline. So that line right underneath your name, it shouldn't be the job title you currently have if you're looking for something else. It should be what is the job title that you're looking for,
Mm,
right? And then it should include a few skills or qualifications that you have that make you qualified to do that job title. And then maybe an accomplishment or a very short line that speaks to how you're equipped to do that. So that should be your headline. Your picture should be really clear. I find some that, because, people will open up the picture a little bit bigger, and if it's super pixelated, like maybe they took a picture of a picture. Like today we have like our cell phones are magical picture takers. So I always
I
say
hope
like,
they're not doing that.
but
Please
you
don't take a
you will
picture of
have.
a picture.
Oh, I have seen some crazy
Oh
images on
no,
LinkedIn, and
you're
I'm
right.
like,
I've seen some bad ones, and I'm
come
like, come on,
on.
let's get a better picture.
I'm like, we're in 2025. You know the amazing, I mean, studio quality picture
Oh,
you can take with your cell
oh,
phone. And
absolutely.
on Canva, just like I said earlier that you could do this banner, you can remove the
Through the
background so it
background.
looks like you have a professional, studio picture where it's just you. I always say you really want to capture your face is 75% of the picture, so it's not like your whole body or anything like that because then they won't see. And having a picture is important. I feel like profiles that don't have a picture just are seen less. Now, the next section I'll talk about that's also super important and it gets underutilized a lot is the about section. I've actually seen profiles that don't even have an about section, and I'm like,
Okay.
oh, that's such a missed opportunity because the about section is where you can really share. This is how I am the perfect candidate for this role. And I actually tell people this is where you can even use AI and your AI of choice. We'll just use ChatGPT as an example today. But you could say, help me to create a very targeted about section for my LinkedIn profile where it showcases how I'm qualified for, and then go ahead and find a few job descriptions. Now, remember, we're still focusing on the same job, just a few different job descriptions because a few different organizations are going to use different keywords and skills, and then copy and paste those into the AI. And then say, based on my experience, and then copy and paste the bullet points from your resume. What you will get is a very focused, targeted about section that highlights how you are the right candidate for this job. Now, this is very important. Make sure you make it your own. I mean, AI says some words that nobody
Yep.
uses. So make sure you're adding your own tone, your own voice. Share something super personal that AI wouldn't be able to make up, right? So how you really love playing with your dog or going camping or whatever. Share just one line that's super personal. Make sure you remove those M dashes, that little long line, those M dashes. I feel like they've just shown up everywhere after AI has come around. And so use this great kind of summary of how you have all the qualifications to do these jobs. All the keywords are now in there because remember, recruiters are looking for these keywords. And this about section is now going to really stand out as someone that is really qualified for these jobs. Now, you want to make it easy to skim through, so spaces, about every 3 lines, I always say. And then even including at the bottom a short bullet point of like the skills that are highlighted in here, putting those in there, those skills that you obviously have. And last but not least, if you're okay sharing your email, share your email under the contact info and in the about section because recruiters are scanning through that real quickly. And if they run out of those in-mail credits that they get, they can just reach out to you directly, send you an email, hopefully call you in for an interview.
That's super tactical right there. I mean, that those are things everyone can do right now to maximize that LinkedIn profile. The about section, you're right. I've always struggled with that. I'm like, I'm not sure. Just in general, just to have my profile, even if I'm not looking for a job, it's like, what should I
Mm-hmm.
put there? And I like how on yours, you've got some success stories and really highlighting obviously the work you do as a coach. So Agreed. Hey, if it's there and you're not using it, you're missing out on an opportunity to have that additional content that can highlight who you are, what you can do, what you've done, and how you help people.
Absolutely.
This is good. This is so tactical. What else on anything else on LinkedIn? I do want to talk about a couple of those success stories, but first, I just wanted to say, is there anything else real tactical that people need to be sure they are doing on LinkedIn? I know you've talked about spending a certain amount of time each day on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, right? And doing some posts.
Yes. So creating posts, like I just said, if you're able to, whether it's share something you're
Yep.
learning, reposting, creating a post that says, you know, what it is that you're learning, what you're,
Mhm.
experiencing, again,
Mhm.
if it's positive and not
Positive
complaining.
experience.
Um, Now, one other thing about, okay, so when people use the open to work banner,
Hmm.
you get a post, right? You kind of usually share a post of like, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm looking for. Not everybody does it because if you're currently working, I understand you don't want to put an open to work banner and let
Right.
everyone in your company know that you're leaving. But if you are in a situation where you are, in between jobs, you're actively looking, or maybe yeah, you know that it's a contract position. I've talked to a lot of people, so they're like, I'm looking because I know my days are numbered here. Um, One amazing tip that I learned is to make sure that you are engaging with the algorithm. So, meaning you're commenting on other people's posts, you're active on LinkedIn, not just, don't just like a few things here and there,
Okay.
actually share something. Like, this was super insightful. I'm so happy, you shared this. I'm learning so much. Share, what it is that you're learning, thoughts you have on something. Share that with a few people that you're following, people in the industry, making sure if you're following this one organization and you have people in the company that are sharing posts about what they're doing in the organization, things that the organization is doing, how they're growing, comment there. Then post your open to work kind of like banner post where you're sharing, this is what I'm looking for, this is where my skills lie. Share something after you've engaged with the algorithm, because what happens is if you haven't posted in 3 months or shared or done anything on LinkedIn, and all of a sudden you make one post, it may not get seen by anybody because this funny algorithm, it allows engagement for people that are active on that site. So you want to make sure you're posting, let's say on a Monday and maybe Tuesday, but you can post, and comment on other people's posts on Monday, then make your post Tuesday, and then go back. And if people are commenting, go back and like respond to what they say, because that also helps the algorithm know you're active. And then every day, spend 15 minutes of just learning what everybody, else is saying, learning about the organization or the industry that you're trying to tap into, reaching out to individuals. Like, don't just apply to jobs, but reach out to individuals and try to schedule these coffee chats. Again, if you're able to send messages through LinkedIn, but if you're not connected, they may not see it. Also, find if you're able to their email. Hunter.io is a great resource
Okay.
that allows for you to have I don't remember how many a month, but they let you per month have access to finding out people's email addresses.
Uh-huh.
So you may know where the person works and you know their name, and then this website helps you find, free email addresses. Because again, people are checking their emails more so than their LinkedIn if they're not active on there every day.
That was hunter.io.
Yep,
Okay.
hunter.io. Yeah.
Another great resource.
Now, a few other tips that are about LinkedIn specifically is quantities and metrics. And this is true of your resume as much as it is LinkedIn. So to take this one for both platforms here, or when you're working on your resume and when you're working on your LinkedIn profile. But when you share a number, and I feel like this is true even in conversation. When you
Mhm.
share a number, I trained 25 people versus if I just said, I just trained a few people last year, you don't know, right? The magnitude of what does it mean to train 25 people versus I just trained a few people. You might think, oh, maybe we should train two people, but when you
Yeah.
share a number, and it could be I helped increase sales by so many, by so much percentage, or I was entrusted with this amount of inventory or money. So anytime you can share a number, a quantity, I always say like metrics, it always speaks volumes. It's almost like you're
Mm,
showing versus just telling someone what you have done. And
mm,
so metrics are going to be super important in the bullet points. I always say at least one bullet point out of every. And here's the thing, if you don't have any bullet points under your experience section, 3 to 5 is the minimum. But three
okay.
to five bullet points per job that you share in your LinkedIn profile, and one of them should have a number, a metric. And sometimes people are like, well, I just can't even think of what number I did. Or, well, try to pose the question as if this was the scenario, let's say before you created a little training sheet for everyone that walked in through the door and experienced this, customer service experience. And now you created this training sheet, and now only 1 out of 10 people ask the questions because now you have this little training sheet that you created. You can create a percentage about how much you impacted the customer service experience based on this one training sheet. So anyway, think through how can I create a number that will explain what I did or the change that I caused in this industry or organization, and then
Mm,
share that not only in the experience section under the
mhm.
bullet points, but also in your about section,
Wow.
sharing metrics, numbers. It's going to definitely make you stand out. And as much as you possibly can, always share the years of experience that you have in different areas of specifically the ones that relate to what you're going into. Okay.
Excellent. So many tips. Time is flying by here. There's so much more I want to ask you. But this, like, just LinkedIn alone sounds like you could could really utilize this resource in a powerful way. Even if I was just thinking as you were talking, say you're not necessarily looking for a job now, it still positions you maybe for the future. If you're using this fully, if you're creating content, if you're engaging, maybe you're looking in a year or two, right? And you've already done all this. You don't have to go, oh, I need to start using LinkedIn now,
Yes.
using it right now.
I tell so many people, like, especially if you're in this season today, don't stop. Even if it's once every 6 months, once a year, go back and update your
Mm,
resume and your LinkedIn profile because you're going to forget, right? Like, you may have a review and you get all this great feedback. You may become employee of the month. You may have all these things and you forget. If you don't update your resume and your LinkedIn profile right then and there, every year, just schedule it. I always say do it like end of year right before the holidays or beginning of the year, just set a calendar date where you just spend, it could be 30 minutes just updating so that you're not having to think through when you are job searching years later, like, ooh, what did I do in this one job? I know there was this thing that we learned or this program that we had to work with. I mean, there's so many things that it'll be so quick if you're doing it within 6 months or a year versus having to think back years later. And then even, okay, this is another challenge. I always tell people try to send out a quick little update to those people that you connected with or those
mm,
people that you've connected with in the past. Send a quick little note and say, hey, this is where I'm at. And you could literally say, I am super happy in this job. I'm learning so much. I'm saying you don't have to just do it when you're job searching. Like you can be happily employed and just say, this is where I'm at. Because then fast forward a few years when you are looking for something, it's not as awkward to reach out and say, "Hey, I know it's been like 5 years since we last connected, but and here's the thing. If it's been 5 years, 10 years, and you haven't connected with someone, still reach out to them. The awkwardness of the moment does not outweigh the benefit of being able to connect with someone that knew you, back in the day, and you guys have shared some history and what you can learn from them. Because if you say to them, even if it's been 5, 10 years, hey, I'm trying to learn about this new industry, this new AI, this new whatever. Tell me about, and that's what we can say, a book, a podcast, anything. Share something, and then that's how you can restart the conversation.
that's great. I was just thinking this actually happened to me this past year. So I was on the receiving end. So a former colleague was looking for a new opportunity, and they were looking at people they were connected to on LinkedIn who were connected to people at the organization they wanted to work, which,
Mm-hmm.
again, he was really researching LinkedIn and using it well. And he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm looking for this opportunity at this place. I see you're connected to so and so." And he didn't say, he didn't ask for a recommendation, or to your point earlier, he was just more like, "Hey, is there a way you could make an introduction so I could have a conversation with him?" Which I thought was wise. Now, what
Yes.
makes this funny though is I hadn't talked to this person since high school. And so I acknowledged that to him. I said, "Hey, I will do this for you because we're friends and I have no problem trying to help." I said, "I just want you to know I've not talked to this person since high school. So he may not even respond
You
to me."
may, yeah,
Let me
yeah.
tell you what, I reached out, acknowledged the fact that we had not talked since high school, and said, "Hey, here's the situation. Is there any way I can connect you? Again, if you say no, it's fine." He responded within 5 minutes. "Absolutely, no problem. Here's my phone
Oh,
number. Have him call me."
that is awesome. I love that so much. And I can I tell you
Yeah.
one extra tip that would have
Yes.
made it so
Yes.
magical?
Yes.
When you're doing exactly what you just shared, that perfect example, the one person that wanted to get connected to the person that
Yeah.
you were connected with, if he would have said, Jeremy, here's a little sample message you can send to them if
Mm,
that's helpful. You may choose not to use it, right?
mm.
But the fact that this person took the time to maybe write out something about them, so now you don't have to figure out what to say about them, how they're trying to learn from this new person or this person that you haven't talked to since
Yeah.
high school, like that makes it so much easier
Mhm.
for you to say, oh, wow, this person took the time to like do this. Like, sure, I'll go ahead, maybe tweak one word here and then forward it on. Like, just know that that could be a great way to ask someone for a connection that will make it a lot easier for them. And they may or may not use it, but just the fact that you're doing that says something about you.
Yes.
So,
That's a great additional tip. Make it easy for the person
yes.
you're asking to help you, and just adding that. That's beautiful. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. So many
To,
tactics here. I hope people are taking notes. This is great. This is great.
oh,
I wanted to ask, and again, I think for the sake of time, we might not be able to get to everything I wanted to cover, but I did want to ask you, and I saw this post you shared, uh, describing someone who is very accomplished but is not getting seen. And you mentioned earlier this idea of discouragement, and I've been there. I can totally relate. It can feel like nobody's paying attention to you. And I just wanted to read this first line. It's You were talking about the job seeker and what he said. He said, "I've put in so much effort with no results, and I don't know what else to do." When that happens with someone you're helping, where do you go with that, and how do you help? Because the discouragement is a real thing, right? And it really can beat you down. So how do you navigate that?
100%. I feel like I've seen it where people will have imposter syndrome after like
Uh,
they felt like absolutely I'm qualified to apply for these jobs, but maybe I'm not because I'm not getting any callbacks. Maybe they start
yes.
having all these questions. And the truth is, number one, the job market is not what it has been in the past. So know that it's
Yeah.
not you, right? It's just you have a ton of people competing for the same jobs. Number two, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. Right? If you think I'm just going to every day do 10 applications and somebody's going to call me back, you may not realize that no, unfortunately, that's not the best use of your time because you may not have someone even seeing your application. So you're spending a lot of time on something that's not going to be very fruitful. So what I say is we need to just figure out, okay, what is it that you're doing? Like the very first questions that I always ask is like, tell me what you have been doing for your job search. And then I always ask, tell me what you're doing when it comes to networking. And sometimes I get a lot of people that are like, oh man, I'm an introvert. Like I really just don't. And I'm just like, I get it. And I totally, totally get it. But networking is really not the awkward schmoozing in a room full of people and trying to get as many
Right.
business cards
Right.
as you can. It has nothing to do with that. It is getting to know one person, learning about them, and asking them if you could learn more, about
Mm.
their journey, hear their story. Most people today want to share their story, period. Right? It could be their career story. They want to share more about what, and especially if you're in a season where you're looking at a legacy and what you're leaving back, finding a young person that wants to learn from you and learn about where you've been and how you got into this industry and what they would do today if they were in your shoes, like that's something that people are more open to it than you think they, may or may not be. And here's the thing, networking is where I say that's a numbers game. Back in the day, and I feel so old when I say that, you could reach out to 10 people and have 4 people get back to you. It was like a
Uh,
40% rate of return when it came to LinkedIn messages.
okay.
Today, it may be 1 or maybe 2 if you're really lucky, but that's okay. The chances of you getting even one good conversation with this person, right? You're now learning from them. Again, it's all really about research. I always say learn from them, hear their story. And here's the magic ticket, okay? When you're done with that 20-minute conversation, you're being super careful. You look at your time and you're like, I want to be cautious of our time. I have one more question to ask you. Is there anybody else within your company, within the industry, within this field that I could do the same thing with? I just want to learn. I want to speak to more people. They may say, yes, I can think of someone right away, especially if you've been respectful of their time. You listened more than you spoke. You asked them a lot of really insightful questions. But then they may say also, let me think about it and I'll get back to you. So that very same day, I mean, you hang up that Zoom call or however you connected with them and you send them a thank you. And you genuinely say, thank you for your time. Here's something that really stood out from what you said. So you're acknowledging that you listened. You ask again, is there anybody that you thought of that I could, ask and do the same thing with? And then here's the last one. Here's a copy of my resume if you ever hear of an opportunity. Okay. So using that with that little formula with every person that you meet with, trust me that the chances of you actually getting a lead for a job that someone shares, yes, actually, I heard about an opportunity that's, opening up in my company before it even gets posted, online. Those are the kind of connections that you want to make. And those meetings are going to be so much more valuable than the hours and hours and hours you spend applying to jobs online.
Mm. That is such great advice. Like there have been so many nuggets, Giselle, that you've shared that I think it just gives you different perspective on the whole process and how you can utilize. We've just really talked mostly about LinkedIn. There, I know that there's other areas we could spend time. Maybe we'll do a part two where we could talk more about some of the other elements of the search. But I know you're passionate about LinkedIn clearly, and you use it extensively. Um, so clearly it works, right?
Mhm.
Like from working with people you've worked with that it clearly works. Any As we get close to wrap up here, because again, we're time's just flying by this conversation. Is there any maybe a success story or just something you would want to highlight from someone you've worked with, whether it's LinkedIn or another element of how you've helped them? But I always love to hear those success stories and what someone did to move them from where they were to where they wanted to be and get that job they were going after.
Yeah, I'm currently working with a teacher that is just looking to transition into corporate. And he is like, I loved teaching and enjoyed every minute of it, but has gotten to a point where he's like, I unfortunately am not able to make as much as I would like because teaching just, there's a ceiling on how much
Yep.
you can make. And so,
Mhm.
um, just there's a lot of questions when you're shifting careers altogether, right? There's a lot of questions about can I really do it? There's a lot of language, transferable skills that you have to change the whole language of how you say what
Right.
you used to do to what you're doing now. And it's just been so rewarding. Like this person I literally just started working with like 2 weeks ago, and he's been so proactive and like taking all the tips that I've given him. And it's like he already scheduled an informational interview, and just because that alone, I'm just like I'm so happy when I tell him like I know this sounds like a crazy thought, but I want you to try this and trust the process. And then they come back and they're like, that was so rewarding just to learn as much as people are willing to share and then be able to be, recommend it to somebody else that I can talk to and have these great conversations. I feel like people just don't realize the value of just making these connections and learning from people that are actually doing the work that you are trying to get into.
Mm.
And then one last little tip that I'll share, because I always say this is a little kind of hidden gem, is associations. Associations
Okay.
have been around forever, right? Many of them now meet online, not only in person when they have their monthly meetings, but if you're trying to get into an industry that has an association, which by the way, most industries have
Yeah,
associations,
me too.
um,
Yeah.
find the board members, the local volunteers that run this organization and schedule informational interviews with them.
Mm.
Coffee chats, if you want to call that. And then just literally connect with them. Those people volunteer their time because they love connecting people that are trying to get into this industry or that have been spending their whole life in this industry. So those are great connections. They
Mm.
know a ton of people in that field,
Yes.
right? Because they've been surrounded by these people in these meetings and they love to connect people and learn and share, all the knowledge. So that's one little nugget I feel like gets very
Mm. Good.
underutilized.
That's another great one. Thank you for sharing that. So insightful. Uh, LinkedIn, such a great resource, and probably largely underutilized or not utilized properly in some ways. And I was thinking to your point earlier about the messages and the response rate. I get a lot of messages on LinkedIn, and it's a little bit frustrating because many of them are clearly just a pitch. And it just seems like the wrong way to go about it. To your point, it's more, hey, I want to learn about you. I want to be interested in you, where so many people just seem interested in what it is they are selling. Is that accurate?
Yes, absolutely. And try really hard to find something on that person's profile that you identify with. Like if
Hmm.
you notice I don't know, you look at their high school, their college, something about, somewhere that they worked, an organization they volunteered with, even a group that they may follow. Like if you mention something that you have in common with this person, number one, they're going to know like, okay, this is not a bot. This isn't a random, message. This is
Right.
someone that took the time to identify something that we have in common and they're wanting to learn. They're wanting to hear my story, like all the things that would make you want to connect with a real human. Because we are unfortunately in an age
Mm,
where we can get 500 AI messages on any
yes.
platform, even, in our emails. And so being able to even find an email that you're just like, oh, this is so cool. Somebody just wants to get together and learn is,
Yeah.
is really great.
Yeah. Be interested in others. And I also would say to be willing to help. I can remember again on my journey that 5 years ago, and there were a number of people that would just say, "Oh yeah, I'll let you know if I hear of something." And then there were other people that said, "Hey, let me introduce you to some people. Let me send five
Yes.
emails on your behalf." And that was so meaningful.
So
Just
great.
take the time. Maybe it didn't lead anywhere, but there was the effort to say, "Let me put you in touch with some people I know who might be able to help you."
That's huge, huge.
And
And being the person that's seeking the advice and being the person that's looking to learn from somebody else, in that time that you do get to share, ask them, is there anything that I could do for you?
yes,
Like it may be that you went to school for something recently or just got a certification and they're trying to find out a little bit more about that, or their child is trying to go into that.
yeah,
You just never know.
no,
Every single human has something to share that somebody else needs to, learn from. So being open to the fact that you also may have something to offer them from the very beginning is going to be super, like just having that attitude is
yeah.
going to make you stand out.
For sure. Makes all the difference. Well, this has been phenomenal. Again, I think we've just scratched the surface, but this has been like a LinkedIn masterclass in an hour here. So thank you for sharing. I did want to ask you as we wrap, just talk about a little bit more about what you do. You coach individuals, obviously, to help them on this journey. Can you talk a little bit about that? What could someone expect? They reach out to Giselle for some help. What does that look like in your process?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So I, first of all, find out where they're at, kind of what their journey has been in their job search process. And then if I find that I can help them, because I know like I may not be the best coach for everybody, but I do work with other coaches that I could also recommend if that, if I realize
Mm.
that that could be the case. But if I find that absolutely this is someone that I can help, I will. First of all, I have a 5 pillars. It's kind of like my program where first I help them figure out clarity. So, what are the exact jobs or industries or types of companies that this person is equipped for, should be going for? The next is helping them with everything branding related. So, their resume, their LinkedIn profile, their cover letters, their portfolio, whatever may represent them, showing them how to apply well to these applications. Then networking. I mean, I could talk about networking till we're blue in the face. So I say from our very first meeting, we're going to talk about networking. And so really teaching people how to network, even helping them with what kind of wording to send out so that people will respond and connect with you. Next is interviewing. So once you start getting ready, and I always say you want to be ready for an interview even before you get that first call, just because you feel more confident when you're applying for a job if you were ready for that interview to happen that same day. So we do mock interviews, help you come up with like what are great stories you can share, how to answer those difficult interview questions. And then last but not least, how to negotiate the offer. We talked about way at the beginning how it's all about the whole package, right? But never leaving anything on the table, whether it's money, benefits, vacation time, all the things. And so that's what my coaching program looks like. And people can go on my LinkedIn, find all the info there. And yeah, I'll
Perfect.
figure out if it's a good match. Because like you said earlier, I do work with individuals until they get hired.
Yes, well, I think that's wonderful. You're saying, hey, I'm going to stay with you through the process, not just say, here, here's some help. Good luck. It's, I want to see you get that job that you're after. So Guiders Way. The website is Guiders Way.
Guidersway.com.
Okay, so that's the website, and of course you're on LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. So I would just encourage anyone listening to connect with you on LinkedIn and to follow what you're doing, what you're sharing, because you are modeling how to utilize it in a way that you've just described, and to really take advantage of the amazing tool that it is to position yourself, like you said, and to create that brand of who you are and the value you bring. So definitely connect with Giselle on LinkedIn. Again, I know we didn't cover probably everything. We could probably have another conversation and talk more about the resumes and the interview, because that's a whole nother part of it. But I think for now, I think just this idea of really utilizing LinkedIn at this level is a great place for people to start. Anything as we wrap, final word of encouragement or anything you just want to share as we close out?
Yeah. So one thing I want to offer is if someone does reach out to me on LinkedIn and they tell me I heard you on Jeremy's podcast, then I will give you feedback on your profile. I will actually look through your profile, give you feedback on how to improve your LinkedIn profile, and just stay. Yeah. I always say there's a lot of no's that happen when you're in your job search, but it just takes the one yes, right? To
Right.
get that next hopefully dream job that you've been praying for and hoping that you'll get. So just stay encouraged. Have people on your side that you can vent, right? And share because it's not easy. There's going to be days that you're going to be discouraged and getting rejection, emails or letters or automatic messages can get discouraging. So know that you're not alone in this process. And there's going to be times you're going to need little breaks from the job search and take those mental little health breaks because it's sometimes a journey. It's not a quick thing that will turn around in a couple of days. Sometimes it's going to be weeks, maybe months. So just take time over the weekend, or at least a day that you just say, okay, I'm just not going to do any job searching today. I'm just going to take a little break and spend time
Yes.
with people you love.
Great advice. It's so true. And great offer. I think that's phenomenal that you offer to look at the someone's LinkedIn profile and give them some feedback. So please take advantage of that. Connect with Giselle online and follow her and engage her coaching as well. She can support you. Thank you again so much for the time and your generosity sharing with us today.
Great. Thank you for having me, Jerry. It was great.
I look forward to hopefully another conversation so we can even dig a little deeper. But this has been awesome. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.